voices and votes.
In a head-to-head gubernatorial battle in Georgia, Democrat Stacey Abrams is vying to become the first black female governor in the U.S. But her run against Republican Brian Kemp is shedding a spotlight on who has access to the polls.
Voter suppression isn't only about blocking the vote. It's also about creating an atmosphere of fear, making people worry that their votes won't count.
Hello, you've reached the Election Protection Hotline.
The National Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law in Washington is keeping track of infringements on voting rights.
Most certainly, Georgia is ground zero when it comes to voter suppression this election cycle.
Kemp is Georgia's current Secretary of State and oversees voter registration and elections. A recent report by the Associated Press showed that more than 53,000 voter applications were on hold in the state ahead of Election Day. Nearly 70% of those were from black applicants. Kemp has denied allegations of voter suppression and spun Abrams' agenda as too extreme for Georgians. The battle for Georgia's gubernatorial seat is emblematic of a number of races across the country in which candidates of color are making strides in record numbers and initiating a wave of firsts across the country. In Michigan, former state lawmaker Rashida Tlaib is poised to become the first Palestinian American in the House of Representatives.
If we want to be able to have a seat at the table, then we're going to have to run. That people like us with unique names and different backgrounds and children of immigrants and all those things that I think makes us uniquely different and our lens very different to finally run for office.
In that refugee camp.
Another Muslim woman, Minnesota State Legislator Ilhan Omar, hopes to be the first Somali American in Congress. She's also a refugee. And in New Mexico, Democrat Deborah Haaland is trying to become the nation's first Native American woman elected to the House.
There's never been a Native American woman. There's nobody that looks like me.
But not everyone is celebrating the rise in new voices.
It's also been a new development that I think has been met with intense fear among elected officials who are very concerned about locking in the status quo and making it harder for new voices to be heard this election cycle.
Well, hello there.
A racist robocall targeting Tallahassee's Democratic Mayor Andrew Gillum in his bid for Florida's governor made the rounds recently, featuring a voice claiming to be the nominee, speaking in a demeaning minstrel dialect sounding nothing like him. His opponent, Ron DeSantis, denounced the call. Gillum is well aware that his win would be groundbreaking as the state's first black governor, and he isn't afraid to comment on the way racism has permeated his run against DeSantis.
He's got neo-Nazis helping him out in this state. Now, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
In Southern California's most Republican congressional district, a young Latino Arab-American Democrat is gaining surprising ground. But Amar Campanajar's opponent has raised concerns over his racial background.
A Palestinian-Mexican millennial Democrat named Amar Campanajar doesn't get his support from the people of San Diego.
Back in Georgia, Abrams knows her campaign rests heavily on turning out unlikely voters as she seeks to make gains in a dead heat race that could have a historic outcome. Noreen Nasser, The Associated Press.